Welcome everybody to a Delco Nerd Network Hot Take. Guys, if you haven't seen a hot take before, well, it's where a few friends get in the basement, give our thoughts, give our opinions on a TV show, a movie, or a game. Today, it's going to be a game, and that game is A Plague Tale. Wow. Requiem.
Did you almost say Innocence?
No, it just didn't. It
didn't go for you.
It just didn't come out right. Here to discuss, as always, the triple threat. Chris Trio.
Gooch, I'm here in my sweaty presence. How are you doing?
Somehow in 40-degree weather.
Dude, it could be 25 degrees and I might still start sweating. Nah, if I'm outside, I won't. But inside, absolutely. And we were discussing how this is your basement is my kryptonite for some reason. I don't think I sweat more.
That's how I designed it.
Anywhere. It's laced with anti-trio kryptonite. I appreciate it. Gooch, A Plague Tale. I did not play this.
No, I did.
You really want to discuss it, which, I mean, it seems deservedly so. I keep seeing people talk about it everywhere.
Yeah.
So what did you think of A Plague Tale? I almost said Innocence. Requiem.
So let me start off by saying I just played the first one like a few weeks before this new one came out. So
sure.
I'm also like new to this series made by Asobo, the guys who made Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Okay, I did not know that actually.
This is this studio.
That's funny.
Focus Entertainment is the publisher. I'm becoming big fans of theirs because I've played a lot of their games recently.
Sure.
And I'm just like, yeah, they got some good studios under their belt. But A Plague Tale Requiem is a sequel to the original game, A Plague Tale Innocence. I think that came out in like 2018.
Sounds about right to me. I wouldn't really know, to be honest.
Yeah. So, as you could expect, it is a third-person action stealth narrative game.
Okay.
And comparing it to the first one, it is basically the first one with like way more meat.
On steroids.
And when I mean meat, I just mean a longer story.
And
there's almost no
more
side content in this game.
Gameplay-wise, do you think it's more meaty as well than the first one? Slightly?
It's the same.
Okay.
It is like a great comparison is The Last of Us. It plays a lot like obviously The Last of Us in its gameplay,
like part 2,
but in the fact that it's just very narrative focused. Like
sure.
It's like 1-on-1.
It's a linear game. It's a linear story-driven game.
Right.
Makes sense.
There's almost no side content in this game besides the collectibles.
Okay.
So Requiem picks up a few months after the first game. So you were telling me, Gooch, do I need to play Innocence? And I would say 100% required.
That's truthfully what stopped me from playing this one before we did this. But I would like to.
What's funny is there's no recap, and they actually don't really tell you much about the first game besides the quick mention of it in conversations.
Is it integral story-wise, do you feel?
It's integral character relationship-wise.
Okay, makes sense.
The story of A Plague Tale Innocence is pretty base.
All right.
So the idea of it is you play as Amicia, and you're protecting your brother Hugo, who has, for all intents and purposes, like a magic disease.
Okay.
It's called the macula, and essentially he is the one who's controlling the rats, and he is bringing the plague with him. So the plague isn't just there.
Sure.
He's partially responsible for it,
yeah.
even though he's not, just because he has the macula.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this goes really for the first one too. The game kind of dips into the alchemy territory.
Interesting.
You work and you play with a lot of alchemists, and a lot of the chemical compounds you're using are alchemy.
Sure.
So it takes this like really like probably like 12th century historical route, and I actually really enjoy that. Obviously, other than this magical plague thing.
Is it set in like our past? Like
yes,
like
it's in France.
Okay.
Yeah, Amicia and Hugo de Rune are French.
Okay, makes sense.
And pretty much not everyone you encounter is French, but yeah, it's like real.
Do they speak with a French accent?
They did in the first one,
and they don't in this.
They don't in Requiem.
You know that reminds.
They're all British. And I'm like, the French
Do you remember
accent.
which game did that before?
Yes, Assassin's Creed Unity.
Yes.
Yep.
It is so weird like that.
You know what? Maybe it's just...
I think the French accent in English,
is
especially
weird.
with a thick one, it's for some reason tough for people. I mean, what I always think back to is in Red Dead that your moonshine guy online, he has a very French accent. Like it's almost like comedic, but that's interesting. I find that funny.
But going into what I think of this game, man... If Elden Ring didn't come out this year, this would be my game of the year. It's fucking stellar.
You would say that before beating God of War.
Yeah.
I
don't think God of War will take Elden Ring.
Interesting.
It doesn't stand a chance. And you know why? Real quick, it's like Horizon. It's exactly like it does the same thing.
We got to save this for the review. I will say that I don't think
it's
that's...
a sequel through
I think
and
it's
through.
much more expansive than Horizon, personally, from what I've seen on Horizon.
Anyway, but
yeah.
I think, like, I mean, and I guess it's kind of the same thing comparing this as it is also a sequel, but I think the story is just really good. This is from, like, a AA dev. Like, they really kind of display this almost mastery of, one, the story,
Sure.
but two, the gameplay.
Yeah.
Like, again, it feels like Last of Us. So you can do all stealth, you can do a mix, or you can do just kill everyone.
Sure.
And that kind of plays into the story where Amicia, you know, in the first game, all you have is a sling and a rock, and you kind of use your alchemy stuff to, like, light torches or extinguish stuff or corrode the guard's helmet so he takes it off and you can hit him with a stone. But now Amicia's, like, gotten a taste for the blood and she's out for it. And
she's ready to kill.
It's the stereotypical story of, like, you know, non-killer person becomes a killer.
Sure.
And, like, you know, she wants to protect her brother and she's kind of, like, really concerned, like, about him and what's going on. And she really just has, like, absolutely no desire to, like, try to talk things over. Like, she just, like, these soldiers
She's
are
like,
coming
at this point, yeah, she knows what, yeah.
And, like, a lot of characters, like, mention it of, like she's like changing and she kind of, like, sees it herself and, like, as she's going through, like essentially what I would call, like, adrenaline bouts. Like, she's, like, freaking out about, like, wanting to kill people. While she's doing it.
Yeah.
And then, like, she's like calms down and, like, comes off the high and she's like, I don't know what's going on with me.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on. And for a minute I'm like, what, does she, like, have something? But she's like, this has happened before. Mm-hmm. So the Justinian plague, which is the Black Plague, is the first time this happened. So it coincides with, like,
that's the bubonic plague?
No, it's the Black Plague.
Okay. All right.
So it coincides. I think this one is the bubonic plague, but it coincides with plagues.
Okay.
That the reason the plague happened is because this host of the macula is, like, alive. So this has happened before where there is a host of the macula and a protector protecting them. And the Order, these alchemists, are the ones who know all this shit about it. But they're kind of assholes. Like, in the beginning of Requiem, you kind of go to this town to find this alchemist, and he's like an asshole. He's
just a jerk off, yeah.
You know, the characters aren't really trusting of him. They're like, this guy, you can't trust this dude. And shit just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And the game, like, it goes in directions, like, I almost could not have predicted. And then it ends on such a heavy note.
Do you feel like it's set up for another, without any spoilers, do you feel like it's set up for another one for sure?
It is.
Okay.
It is set up for another one.
Interesting.
So, and it's hard to say where exactly they'll go with the story, but, like, holy shit, man. I don't know. This works. And I know a lot of people liked Innocence, and I played Innocence, and it was okay. And I'm like, yeah, this is, like, I could tell this is a smaller studio, Asobo, and they're kind of trying their...
they're dipping their toes.
Right. One of our latches went?
I think so.
The one back here?
No.
It's all right. We'll get it.
Yeah,
we'll get it
okay.
before we set that on.
Yeah. Interesting. No, it's really interesting to hear that a studio like that just did Microsoft Flight Simulator has kind of evolved into this. That's cool to see.
Yeah,
for sure.
And again, this game is really heavily character driven
and narratively driven.
All the characters are really good. There's kind of some, I wouldn't say companions, but besides you and Hugo, there's, like, other characters that are sometimes with you. Lucas, who's a returning character from the first one, and then we have Sophia, who's, like, an Indian pirate. Mm-hmm. And then Arno, he's like essentially, I don't know if he's French, but he's a soldier type. And these characters kind of come in and out of the story at certain points.
Would you say the quality of gameplay matches up to the story?
Absolutely.
You think it's as fun to play as it is to watch? Because I think that's when you talk about something as like God of War or even like Elden Ring, it's fun to play, but I don't get the story at all. So that's why I can't see that beating God of War for me, at least so far this year. But like when it comes to God of War, that's so much fun to play moment to moment, just as much as it is to watch those cutscenes. You really feel like that it's like compelling gameplay?
Yeah, I think the gameplay and the story match up pretty equally.
Okay.
Like,
That's cool
I understand what you're saying with like the Elden Ring. Like the story isn't necessarily.
It's as much as you make it, for sure.
It's definitely as much as you make it. But this lines up more with God of War, and the sort of the gameplay sequences, and how your like progression system works is. Obviously, you're upgrading all your equipment, your sling, your pouches, your crossbow. You
all the good stuff. Yeah,
a crossbow, like pretty stereotypical. You find tools, you upgrade shit.
Makes sense.
But for your character skills, it's basically determined by actually how you play.
That makes sense.
If you're killing everybody, your aggressive skill bar goes up. If you're killing everybody in each section, if you're doing a little bit of both, I think it's opportunist goes up, and they have their own abilities, and then the other one is just for not killing at all.
I've been playing a lot of Splinter Cell Blacklist, and that's like the exact system they use in that. There's like Panther, Ghost, and Assault, and it's like depending on how you play.
Yeah, I really like it because I'm not just getting XP for what I'm doing. Like the game knows that I'm either killing everyone or I'm not, and it's rewarding me with that progression tree.
No, that makes sense. So. That's definitely a good gameplay
I'm fine
mechanic.
with putting some crafting materials into the sling and stuff and the crossbow, but I think we've talked about this with plenty of games where those trees just get so daunting. It's in Horizon, it's in Assassin's Creed,
it's in Arkham, it's in Gotham Knights.
It's these huge, maybe not even huge, just branching trees that you almost just cannot be bothered with, and you're just plugging in points, and you just don't care.
And it's more even, they don't even necessarily have to be large. Like I point to Gotham Knights because that in skill trees and that you're like, it ups your attack 10%, or it ups like something by point whatever percent. So it's really not feeling like they're making a major difference when you put points into these skill trees. Whereas old games, even like the first Assassin's Creed Origins, that had a much more tame tree that it felt like when you buy a point, it's really making a difference. Or when you're buying a skill, it's making a substantive difference in how you're playing the game, which I feel like a lot of games just don't do that well anymore, which is unfortunate.
One thing I really love about this game and Requiem as well, it starts off, one of the things that asks you if you want to play with like immersive HUD, and I play both of them with immersive HUD, so I'm not seeing when I'm getting detected, I'm not seeing what I pick up and how much.
So it's not dynamic. It's like it just doesn't. Okay, that makes sense. Because I know I've seen things like dynamic HUDs where it kind of goes in and out when needed.
No, it's just like most of my things are always off. Besides my weapon wheel.
You know I love a nice HUD-less fucking game. That's my go-to.
And again, when you're playing a narrative-driven game like this, and by the way, this is probably like a 20-hour game.
Sure.
Of all story, again, like no side stuff. You have your collectibles and stuff, but other than that, like you're just going through the story.
So a linear, narrative-driven game for 20 hours, did you feel like there was any fluff involved? Did there ever get to a point in the game where you're like, I don't feel like it needed this?
No.
Or you really felt like it was all necessary?
Yes.
That's cool. That's good to hear.
It's long. Like you definitely feel like the game is meaty.
Sure.
And I don't mean lengthy as like in a negative thing. You're just like, wow, this game has a lot to say and a lot to tell.
No, that's a careful balancing act with the length of a game.
Yeah. Because like the first one is like 6-8 hours.
Oh wow. So that's a major step up.
The second one is literally double the
More
size.
than double, yeah.
And it's all the voice acting is great. The graphics look really good. The frames. It's a 30 FPS game.
All right, let's have this discussion.
Because it was Plague Tale and Gotham Knights.
Gotham Knights is the one that's truly more unacceptable to me because that's such a fast-paced game.
I would agree.
But
do you have a question?
No, it's interesting on like this whole idea of 30 frames per second, how this has kind of really entered the zeitgeist now of like, I admit I was someone who didn't care about frame rate really, or felt like I didn't notice it, but that's because I didn't realize when a game had it. Even looking back, I guess apparently Modern Warfare and like some Call of Duties had 60 frames on old Xboxes and stuff, which I didn't realize.
Oh, some PS2 games had 60 frames.
And I don't know. Do you feel like it's a fair expectation to have when you're releasing a fully next-gen game at this point for it to be 60 frames per second?
I want to say yes, but no.
Because I think at this point it should be the standard. And the fact that you're working with these consoles that are supposedly so powerful.
Why Plague Tale is 30 FPS, I don't really know. But I don't really care that it's
you don't feel like it's
FPS.
I get, especially in a game like that where it's a bit more slow paced. It doesn't
Gotham Knights, I get the critique, but with this, I like the only thing that was like kind of killing me was sometimes when there was a lot of flames and a lot of rats on screen, the game chugged.
Clipped a lot, yeah.
Like
Not clipped, yeah.
The rat technology in this game is pretty cool. I like the swarms of rats that come out. It's like, again, like you have like streets like covered in rats and you cannot see like the cobblestone or whatever.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I would say make all your games 60 frames per second, you piece of shits. No, I'm kidding. I know. Listen, I don't know how game development works. I'm sure that there are ins and outs of it that I could never begin to understand.
And it's also interesting from like a stealth perspective. This is a game where you're actually going towards the light, not away from it. You want to be in the light. That's how you're going to get through most of the levels when there's rats around, which are a good amount of them. Sometimes during the day there's not rats.
Makes sense.
The rats don't start coming out during the day until later. But like, like you're stealthing past guards and stuff like that, but like you still need to be wary about like staying in the light, and because like the guards have torches, they're in the light, so it's very opposite how like most stealth games, it's about sticking to the shadows.
Is there a difficulty setting?
There is.
Okay.
And the first one didn't have one.
Okay.
And this one did. I played on the hardest difficulty.
Did you find that the guards were reactive in a good way? Because one thing
Yes.
I know with stealth, even like playing Gotham Knights, I don't mean to keep ragging on it, but I was like fully in the peripheral of a man when I was like stealthing, and he was just like, okay, and he just walked away. Nothing's worse to me in a stealth game and I guess it can go to the other side too when they're almost too reactionary, but that's good. That seems like
you're getting like AI. you really can't fight like a lot of guards at the same time. Like you can, but like the way the game is designed, you don't have a machine gun that you can just rattle down some guards.
What was the time frame again? I'm sorry. Like
1200s.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So and you have a crossbow, and you can only carry like 4 or 5 bolts at a time.
Sure.
And your sling, and that means like you have to headshot them to kill them.
Yeah.
So like you can go all out, but like if you're not like killing them from range, like if you get swarmed, like you're gonna die.
Gooch, this sounds like Splinter Cell Blacklist a lot, and I kind of like it.
Just with rats.
Just with rats
and
a
17-year-old
12,
girl.
yeah, and then the 11th century.
But Amicia and Hugo are really well. All the characters are well performed. One character, Lucas, the returning character from the first game, was recasted, and I really liked him in the first one. And
that's frustrating, especially when you play something so recently when that's so fresh in your head.
Yeah, I was like, I really liked his his voice. Like he's young. I guess he's got to be 11,
sure,
12, and he sound like in the first game he sounded really inquisitive and curious, like as like a novice,
sure,
alchemist. And in this one he sounds like he's like Amicia's age, and Amicia's like 17 or 18 or something like that.
Okay.
And you know what I love about this game too? The characters go through wardrobe changes and hair changes often. That is always something that I really appreciate. I think it's like an immersion thing, but like
it feels like they're actually living in the world and like, okay, my clothes got dirty or whatever.
Or she got injured. She gets injured and like someone cuts her hair to treat the wound.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
And she wakes up and her head, the side of her head is
shaved.
shaven.
Yeah.
And at the end of the game, she shaves her whole head.
Interesting.
And she has just like a
spoiler, Gooch.
A short hair look like I do.
She changed her hairstyle? God damn it! Why did you tell me that?
Might not even play it. Yeah. But we're staying away from spoilers for this one. Honestly,
because honestly, I want to play it now. I gotta admit, you're getting
exactly.
me to get. Yeah,
it is one of the best games of the year. I'm really excited to see in the Game Awards what it gets nominated for.
Do you think
I really do think it's a Game of the Year contender.
Do you think in a more? I mean, as well as Gotham Knights, but do you think that this will get drowned out in a more packed year, in a year that we had like a Starfield and a whatever else that was supposed to come out?
Maybe if it came out
Suicide
in
Squad,
like February or March, yes.
Interesting.
Because like Horizon is the drowned out game this year. That game.
It is so funny. I totally forgot that came out this year. I will play that eventually. It's just that might be my summer game this year, or like this coming year. Who knows?
Yeah, like Plague Tale is a better game than Horizon, hands down. Like I think it says a lot when a team can execute an idea really well, and like they aren't this like AAA dev like Guerrilla is. Like they almost executed a game on the level of them.
Yeah.
And they're not.
Well, that shows promise. So do you think they're going straight to Plague Tale, whatever it is next? Or would you like to see them try a new
I mean,
IP?
I would imagine Microsoft Flight Simulator is an ongoing thing. So
Sure,
I
that's
imagine
probably...
they're still probably updating it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd be down. I know we had a few years between Innocence and Requiem. I would love to see the third game sooner rather than later.
Okay, interesting.
And again, Amicia is such a like all the characters you meet in this game are so likable.
You enjoy them. Yeah.
And Hugo, it's like you really kind of feel for this kid who doesn't really, who's like trying to make the best of a really shitty situation and kind of being in this position where he's getting bloodthirsty too because he controls the rats and he kills people, and that's even in the first one.
So do you have any fun rat powers in this?
It's not like full blown rat powers, but
Sure.
you do get some.
Okay.
Especially like he goes through what's called thresholds of the disease.
Okay.
Essentially, and like
This is Hugo, right? I'm just making
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So Hugo is in the second and final thresholds in the second game. So, and I guess that means he gets more abilities, and I don't know how he's just like learning how to control them. Like,
Is he a good companion? Would you say, like, is he felt like, do you have to protect him?
Is he
at all?
annoying? No.
Okay. Does he contribute? Like, is it like an Atreus, a Kratos situation where he's just kind of along? You don't have to protect him or anything.
Yes,
or
but
like,
he's more attached to your hip.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah. So in the first one, you can leave him around, and if you get too far, he gets scared and he starts like crying.
Well, Gooch, I'm just glad we finally, after all these dad simulators, got a sister-brother simulator,
and
not the ones that all of you are searching for online. But
I'm glad you brought that up because you actually. Like, for what it's worth, you really don't see brother-sister dynamic in games all that often, especially when you play as the sister and you're like
not the
protecting
brother.
the brother.
That's true.
That is like not a thing
Gotcha.
at all. In
Okay,
games,
no, that's cool.
Like, what game do you know besides like AC
No, of course,
Syndicate that is like brother-sister?
No, it's true. That's one of the only one. And yeah, no, it's tough to name. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's good, Gooch. It sounds like a good game. You definitely have intrigued me to the point of which I'm going to play Innocence and then get around to Requiem. It's on Game Pass, correct? Requiem is.
I think Requiem is.
I'm pretty confident it is.
I don't know about Innocence.
Yeah, Requiem definitely is because I downloaded it and I was going to start playing it.
Yeah,
but then I was like, no, I got to do Innocence.
Like, going into Requiem without Innocence, like, you just don't have the character story of like where they've been.
Sure.
And you're
coming in. Helps.
You're coming into the middle of it, and yeah, you do need it. It is definitely required.
Makes sense. I like it, Gooch. Anything else on A Plague Tale?
That is it. A must play for this year for sure. I can't wait to see if it gets nominated for Game Awards, Game of the Year, and we're definitely going to be talking about it.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I feel like that would surprise me if it wasn't at this point, with just all the talk that's been about and just the lack of games that we've had this year in general.
It's reviewed really well. I think a lot of people like it. Like the only bad conversation I've heard about it is the frame thing.
Yeah. So I mean, even like I feel like the only ones that can't. How many Game of the Year nominees are there usually?
6.
Like, I feel like we've only had like 5 that I could even consider. I mean, I don't even know. Like God of War, obviously, Elden Ring, Plague Tale. I guess Horizon would be on that list.
I hope it's not.
But like, what else do we put on it?
I think Stray might be on there.
Really?
I think a lot of people like that game.
Interesting.
I'm not saying it deserves it. I'm saying it's there.
That would push it
from a particular.
And of course,
reason.
Gotham Knights. I apologize, I forgot.
And then you keep ragging on it.
Gooch, I've really.
We're not doing that.
I know. You're
just
right.
like, why don't we just review Gotham Knights right now?
I'm just saying it deserves Game of the Year. What can I say? Anyways, folks, thank you all so much for watching with us, even with us live on twitch.tv/Delco Nerd Network. We appreciate your time. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are found. Just search Delco Nerd Network. We're on all the social medias as well, at Delco Nerds on basically everything. We have a Facebook page. We have a Discord channel, which should be all linked down below. You can find all this information on our website, delconerdnetwork.com. And you can email us your comments, questions, or concerns at delconerds@gmail.com. We'd be happy to get back to you. And if you can like, comment, subscribe, share, all that stuff really helps us here. Tell your friends about us. Tell your families. Play us in the background. Give us some views. Who cares? We love you. But guys, girls, folks, thank you so much for watching. For Gooch, I've been Trio. We'll see you next time.